Back to the van. Back on the old van. If you haven't seen the other episode, that's funny. I have this old van. It was given to me for free. Instead of just getting rid of it, I thought I would fix it up using all leftover materials from various building projects. Now, most of the time I am designing and building luxury bathrooms, so I do have a stack of plywood and miscellaneous wood. I know you won't have that, but seriously, in the end, maybe it's a few $100 of stuff in here. Anyway, I started with an old van. I cleaned it out. I took the shelving that it came with, made it nicer, and put it back in. Then we did a cool feature on the ceiling using corrugated plastic and cedar, like lightweight cedar cladding. Threw in some lights that I had left over from my other van project. And then, let's see, last video was paneling on the walls and on the back doors. Now we're ready to make a bench that can pull out. You've seen them before if you've seen any van videos out there. It's got the slats and you pull it out. You can pull it out into a bed, from a bench to a bed. Anyway, we're going to build one of those. I'm winging it as I go along. This has been a lot of fun so far, so let's dive into this. All right, now the fun part, or the big part, main part. So one of the hardest things in a van is that you can't use a level. So you have to square everything off of the floor. And then once you get something that's straight up and down in, like these shelves, you can square things to that. So you're basically going off the floor of the van, because even now I'm sitting on a hill slightly. Anyway, these are in. I finally put them in. They were just sitting there, so if they look a little tighter, they're in. And now that I know that line is a straight line in the van, I can move over here and square this next item up to that, because this wall, remember, we purposely skewed it to fit the van. Maybe on the bottom it's close, but we can't go off of that. So I just put some blue tape on the ground and measured a random number. I did 29 inches. I made a line at 29 there, and then back here I made a line at 29. So now I have, at least I have a parallel line to the other side of my van. And as I play with what I'm doing over here, I'm just going to use those marks as reference so I know which way that has to be twisted or torqued. If you've watched van videos, you've seen the bench that has the slats on top that interlocks, and then you pull it out like a pull-out futon or something, and it expands and you could sleep on it. Let's try that here. And I'm just winging it. I know that I need some kind of first sleeve or box, so some kind of three-sided box. I have to leave the returns, the pieces that go into the wall, a little longer, because I have to scribe them to the wall of the van for that curve. I don't have to go crazy, but I do want it to curve so that it's pretty much touching. I remember, things in this van are nice enough, not total perfection, but they're definitely not just square cut and slapped in. So basically I'm going to start by making my first piece, and I'm maxing out in my distance here. It's going to be 63 inches. Once I do that, I'm going to play with the sides, and I'm talking you through this because I don't know how much I'll talk while I'm doing it, because I don't want the video to get boring. Once I figure out where that first piece is going to sit here, then I'm going to slide in my sides, scribe them to the back wall, and then cut the front to match, and I can build my first three-sided box. Then I'm going to make the next one that goes right in front of that. So a U, and then a U right in front of it. My overlap, that's going to slide out. So that's obviously going to be 3/4 inches longer than the first one on every direction, the front and the sides. And that'll slip right on top. And then I put slats alternating that pull out. Then, by the way, I'm making this 13 inches high, so it's going to sit kind of like that. Then the plan is, when it's used as a work van, it'll hold just Milwaukee packouts, as simple as could be, stacked up as high as could be. And since we have this curve up here, I had to bring it out, because down here there'll be space in the back, but as we go up, it'll hit the wall. That should make sense. If it doesn't, you'll see it come together. All right, I actually have to backtrack a clip. I accidentally didn't hit record, so I did an extra step. You're going to see this in or not in the next couple of clips. Anyway, I built our first three-sided box. It was very simple, nothing special. I just screwed it at the front, 3/4 inch plywood, and then once it was built 13 inches on each side, I let it sit. I made sure it was touching the floor, and I put in just a scrap 2x4 across. That's how I figured level. because the sides are sitting on the van, so that's in at the right height. Then I screwed it into my back wall with some wood screws. No big deal. I also added another 2x4 in the middle because when I have slats across this, they're only going to be 3/4 inch plywood by 3 inches wide. So I put that in just so there's not a sag. Anyway, very simple box. I lightly scribed it to the back wall so it has a slight curve. Just traced my pencil along on a little scrap of wood to find that curve. So now let's bring in the nicer box, the front, which is going to go right on top of this. So it's 3/4 inches bigger, like a sleeve, and it's going to pull out. So these scraps of plywood that I'm using did have slight bend or warp in them. They've been in the garage for so long. Just eyeballing, splitting the difference every time I put a screw in. I know I want 2 here. Like so. Great, so now, if none of that has made sense, it should now. It's like a giant sleeve. It slides through. Ugh. I measured for these slats that are going to go in 19 3/4 inches, not that it matters to you. Let's bust out the table saw and make some, I think 3 inches sounds good, 3-inch slats. Okay, I cut a bunch of 3-inch slats out of 3/4 inch wood. I'm running low on supplies now, so I gotta be careful. But I realize I want a little bit of support in between. This is like a 19-inch span. So I'm just gonna grab a 2x4 and put it somewhere in there. Let's slide this out. It's gonna be tight in here now that I have things. These are just deck screws. I think they're 2-inch. These don't have to be nice because you never see them. And that's flush with the first box, that height, obviously, because that's the height of our slats. So, lay them out, see how many I truly need. And in my excitement, I just made a huge mistake. I worked so hard at making sure this was parallel to the other side, so this end is actually longer than the front end. And I was so excited to cut all these slats that I made them all the same measurement from the front. So as I get here, they're all too short. And it's by like 1.5 inches, so it's substantial. Luckily, I found another scrap of plywood in the garage because I thought this was my last piece. I should have enough. I should have enough to redo the whole set. Grr. So one good thing about not really having a plan here is that I keep thinking. So as I do everything, I'm wondering if I can do it differently or better. And that's good here because I just came up with a better solution. So this sleeve, obviously, you can see this, right? Yeah. I had thought that this sleeve would go all the way, push totally up against this, and then every other slat would be screwed in I think you can see, right? So I would either screw down to the bottom first frame, and then the next one I would screw face frame onto the other one so that this pulls out every other. And then I realized if I put a scrap, let's tilt that back down. If I put a scrap on this, where's that? 3/4 inches down, just like the height of my first box, I could then screw all of them from the top down, and my face of this outer sleeve will be totally nice without any screws on it. That's way better, so that's what I'm doing. My failed slats I'm using as that spacer, and I just traced a line across my first box at the right height. Now I'm just screwing that on. So let's do that, and then we will... I'm stalling right now because my saw battery is charging up. So once that's charged up, we'll make the new slats and put them on, finally. Oh, also, if this was a more intentional build or a more important build, all of this wasted space under here would be turned into storage, and I would cut out either the front and the back to have access under there, or cut out the side to have access there. I could do that down the road, or anyone who might end up with this van could do that down the road. For the sake of this video, I'm just making it a box. Okay, so I started cutting my new scraps. I actually think it is red oak plywood, but I'm not sure. Well, I'm fairly sure. Anyway, that'll look nice if I put a clear on it, and I hope I should have enough. I did my first one. I won't bring the camera in yet. Put my first one in all the way on the side, and also on this end, I'm going to make sure I'm all the way on my outside sleeve too. That way I can screw it on the outside to keep my front square right off the bat. You know what, if that makes sense to you, because right now it can open on its own. So I want to keep that nice first edge. Perfect. If down the road, you know, once I get 2/3 or 3/4 of the way, I want to check my spacing, and I might have to adjust from 3 inches to 2.5, whatever. I'm cutting them one by one. So I set up my chop saw, measuring one by one, because the van not only gets bigger down there, but also has a little bow in the middle. So one by one, I'll put them in. I'll bring the camera in to show you a little bit. I also put a clamp here to hold them all together, or to hold the two sleeves together for now. And I put a piece of wood on top, screwed in at exactly the right spot because we had a little bow. So I measured off my shelves over here that are perfect. And I saw I was 1/4 inch off in the middle, so it was a little banana-esque. So I put screws in at exactly the right spot, so now it can't move. All right. All right, so I just put in one just to test it out. Remember, I have 2 layers here, so every other one you see will be screwed at a different level. This one isn't screwed in yet. The front ones, I'll probably pre-drill. The ones that are in the first box, I don't have to, so far anyway. I have these 2 random pieces of metal. This is just a piece of aluminum and a little skinny ruler. I decided that together they make a nice spacer. That's it. It's that simple. I want enough room for it to never to bind, because it's not on a nice track or anything. So when I slide it, if they're too tight, the wood will touch and it'll be really hard to slide in and out. So I want, you know, if we're calling them teeth like a zipper, I want those teeth to be separated. Now, what's going to be very easy is to get confused and screw into the wrong thing. So I'm just looking at every one and thinking, what do I want to do here? This one is a mobile one, so that does not get attached to the back. Only gets attached to the front. Let's try not pre-drilling. A risky move for sure, but... Alright, that might be doable. I'm using cabinet screws, so they're a little smaller. So, next on, spacer. Alright, if that makes sense, I'm going to keep going. I'll show you when I'm halfway done. Okay. Now that it's holding itself together, get rid of this scrap. I'm cutting like 3 at a time, so I'm putting them up. I cut a bunch that are too big, and I'm just eyeballing where to cut. Roughly 3 or 4 at a time. So I'm cutting my pieces out here. Sorry, it's a little dark in the shadows. And what I did realize, so I have halfway, or I have half of them done, and I tried to pull it in and out, and it's tough because I have a lip trying to get under the ones that are fixed. You know, when I slide it back, I have this scenario, I'm trying to get under this one, and it's tight because the floor of the van is working against me. So I'm just going to put a little cut, I guess we can call it a chamfer. Or camphor? Chamfer. When you don't talk to anyone during the day and you're working by yourself, you don't say words out loud. So when I have to say a word out loud, I either might make one up or mispronounce it. Sorry, it's just going to happen. Anyway, watch. I'm going to put a little cut. I'm just eyeballing it. Just enough to get started, right? Get my face out of there. It's not all the way to the tip, so I still have straight edge. But when something else comes up against it, right, when I'm push that bed back together, I'll hit that bump and it'll guide me in. Rather than hit a roadblock, I hit the curve and they can force themselves in. Got to say that one out loud because it was hard. Even with only half of it done, it was hard to put it back, even to pull it out, because it was like sandwiched to the floor of the van. All right, let's finish this up. All right, we're towards the end here. I've got like 5 pieces left. You'll be a little disappointed in me because I don't care enough about this van to worry about equally spaced pieces. So instead of taking like 1/8 of an inch off of the last, 7 or 8, the last 3 or 4, I just totally, chopped down drastically. So I have 2 very different size pieces at the end because I don't care enough for this one. So I have to cut down these last 2 pieces, but let's put in these 2. Same deal. The spacer has worked really great, and I'm pretty square. The skew of things is pretty good based on the fact that I just went off a parallel line on the floor. And I didn't even use like a speed square in my corners. I just eyeballed it. So like my spacing is the same. We're not like jacked at all. Anyway, I'm running low on screws, but it looks like I'm gonna make it. These cabinet screws, these were 1.5 inches, by the way. That looks good. And I haven't had anything split, which is also great considering I'm not pre-drilling. So I'm going to put in these last 2 little ones. I'm going to clean up, blow the dust out of this van, pull in some Milwaukee packouts and stack them here just so we can see how great it looks to really get excited. And then it's just a matter of little tiny things. Maybe I'll make one more video of like accessories or finishing touches. I have random scraps laying around from all this. Maybe I'll make some little boxes to hold stuff. Who knows, maybe hooks, some kind of handle to pull this thing out because it is hard to grab. But anyway, I'll see you when we're cleaned up. So very quickly, just because I can't even pull this out, I had a scrap of pure walnut. I don't know if you can see that. I just put a little 45 on it, left a little flat part barely, just total random, threw it through the table saw because I need a couple handles to grab here. So let's put this one 18 inches in, that's right there. And I put it 3/4 down. So if I just put that flush. Now let's try it. It's still gonna be hard. Okay, we're gonna have to remedy this. Pause. That little bit of underneath on the ones that are attached grasps it so hard. Because once it's out, I mean, you slide, and it's really nice. You know what? So I didn't do the first half with the angle. So what I'm going to have to do is take my little saw and hit them all. So let's see if we can just flop this. Which we can. And what I'm going to do is, well, I guess I should bring you in there. I'm just going to come in and slice that off. So that has that starting catch that starts to tuck us under. Hopefully that's good enough. Let's see, excuse me. All right, our hardest ones are definitely right here. Well, both ends, I guess. But it's our floor. But it's doable. That's a win for now. This is what it looks like pulled out with a human on it. You could pull it out more, you could pull it out less, just to show, you know, this side we have an extra 2x4, so it's definitely solid. This side right now, with these strips of plywood, there's about a 15, 16-inch span with no support under it. And this is all my, you know, weight almost. So it's strong enough. The only thing is you would have valleys if you went directly with a simple air mattress. You're probably going to squish into those. So maybe something a little more sturdy, or even a piece of 1/4-inch material that you throw in here if you go anywhere, if you use it for camping or adventures. But it's pretty cool. Just wanted to show that you can have it all. You can have a workhorse, a beater, an adventure mobile, and it doesn't take much, especially if you don't have skill. Just be honest with yourself and say, okay, I'm going to keep it simple, but I want to try to make each piece at least nice on its own. That doesn't mean it has to be perfect fit, but at least try. So, when in doubt, keep it simple. Let's put it back together. So I just took some of my pack out stuff from my real van and I put it in here. And it's amazing how exciting something can be. We have a van from 2003 that I spent, I think, $60 on, and most of that was a gift card I had at Home Depot. Anyway, I put in the time. I got rid of a bunch of scraps that were in my way anyway. And how amazing is this? I mean, it's nothing special, but, you know, like I've said this whole time. Let's go in here, actually. Oh. Like I've said this whole time, this is a basic build out. It's not fine furniture. Nothing is perfect. We still see metal in the van, you know, but it's nice. Like, the pieces are nice and everything is soothing. I would say, I think the best way to describe it is almost like it was a kit of paneling for your van, you know, like laser cut, like rounded, kind of nice, but obviously not fine furniture. Anyway, totally amazing. So I think there's definitely one more video's worth of stuff to do in this van. Maybe some fun things, like I mentioned, build stuff for the walls. Maybe, I think those ribs in the bulkhead, I think I might put a piece of wood in each of those, which would make it easy to screw stuff into later. I don't know if I have, without spending money, I don't know if I have any liners for these shelves, but I'll look around. And let's see. I don't know. Any other fun things I might be able to think of or not? Like I said, there was no plan here all along. I think it turned out pretty awesome. All right, I'll see you in the next one.